I mean, I've lost two great-grandchildren, and now I'm going to lose a grandson.
A Roane County man was sentenced to life without parole today for starving his 2-year-old son to death in 2012. 10 News reporter Katie Enman was in that courtroom today for his sentencing. Katie?
Hey Daniel, that's right. Courtrooms usually aren't open on a Saturday, but today the Kingston one was. To wrap up a week-long case to decide if Matthew Dotson would spend the rest of his life in prison with or without the possibility of parole. In a relatively empty courtroom on a Saturday afternoon, the jury heard the final pleas of Matthew Dotson's family and friends.
Please give him a chance.
Dotson was sentenced to life on Friday for the starvation death of his 2-year-old son Clifford, and the jury's job on Saturday was to decide if Dotson would spend his life in prison with or without the possibility of parole. Dotson's mother talked of his character and how he would never intentionally do something like that.
It's not him. He loves your voice.
Did he love his children?
Most definitely.
While Dotson's grandmother remembered having to tell Dotson's other son, Lucas, his baby brother had passed.
I watched Lucas and had to tell him.
Dotson's wife Amanda was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 34 years, and on Saturday, Matthew Dotson was handed a larger sentence.
We, the jury, unanimously agree that the defendant shall be sentenced to imprisonment for life without the possibility of parole.
For now, Dotson will be held in the Roane County Jail and then transported to federal prison, where he will serve the rest of his life. Daniel.